Emma Parker had always been careful at work, as the project manager of a mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago. She had learned early on that mixing personal feelings with professional life often led to complications. She liked her routine, her structured days, and her ability to control the environment around her. Yet, when Daniel Hayes joined the team 2 weeks ago, something shifted. Daniel wasn't like the others. He had an easy charm, an effortless way of making everyone smile. But there was a depth in his eyes that unsettled Emma in the most unusual way. She didn't trust her heart to notice him, but her heart noticed him anyway. It was during a late Friday meeting that Claire, their team lead, announced the weekend retreat. Emma had expected another corporate outing, maybe a workshop. But Claire's words painted something different. This weekend, we're doing a team retreat. They call it crew bonding. It's casual, adventurous, and fun. Everyone participates. No excuses. The rest of the team groaned with a mixture of excitement and resignation. Emma kept her smile polite, but a nervous anticipation fluttered inside her chest. She had heard stories of team retreats gone wrong. Awkward encounters and forced games, yet something about this felt different. She couldn't explain why she was drawn to the idea, or why the thought of Daniel being there made her pulse quicken. By Saturday afternoon, the team had arrived at a lakeside cabin tucked into the forest. The air smelled of pine and water, the kind of scent that filled lungs with a clean, almost intoxicating freshness. The cabin was rustic but inviting, with large windows facing the lake, sunlight bouncing off the water in golden streaks. Emma unpacked her bag and noticed Daniel already by the shore, leaning against a tree casually as if he belonged there. She told herself to focus on the other teammates. But the pull toward him was magnetic. The first night brought the bonfire. The team clustered around logs and chairs, laughing at shared memories, telling stories of past mishaps, and roasting marshmallows. Emma felt the warmth of the fire on her face. Yet it was nothing compared to the warmth that spread through her chest when Daniel's gaze found hers across the circle. It was fleeting, just a glance, but it lingered, leaving a trail of questions she couldn't yet answer. She busied herself with marshmallows, yet she kept feeling the weight of his attention. He seemed aware of it too, offering small, effortless smiles whenever their eyes met. As the night deepened and most of the team wandered off to explore or return to their rooms, Emma found herself walking along the lake with Daniel. Their shoulders brushed occasionally, sending an unfamiliar shiver through her. The silence between them was comfortable but charged. She wanted to speak, to say something meaningful, but words failed her. Daniel's presence was enough. Moon cast a silver reflection on the water, turning the lake into a mirrored sky. When their hands accidentally touched, both flinched slightly, then paused, lingering in the moment just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Neither spoke, yet a silent understanding formed. Emma tried to reason with herself, to remind herself that this was a team retreat, that it was just fun and games. But as she looked at Daniel, she realized that whatever was happening between them was beyond reason. There was a tension, a subtle current, something that couldn't be ignored. He laughed softly at something she didn't even hear, and the sound made her heart ache in a way she hadn't expected. She realized she wanted to be near him, to see him smile, to feel that quiet spark whenever he looked at her. That night, as the cold air settled in, they reluctantly returned to the cabin. Daniel hesitated by the door, and Emma noticed the uncertainty in his stance. Then, almost shyly, he asked, "Hey, do you want to take a walk tomorrow morning? Just the lake, before everyone wakes up." Her stomach twisted with excitement and nerves. Simple walks sounded innocent enough. Yet the thought of being alone with him filled her with a quiet anticipation she hadn't felt in years. "Sure," she said, keeping her voice steady, though her pulse raced. "I'd like that." They said goodnight, both aware that something had shifted. Something unspoken was forming, delicate and fragile, like a small spark in dry wood, waiting for a breath of wind to turn it into flame. Emma retreated to her room, lying in bed with her mind spinning. She knew she had to focus on work, on the team, on her own boundaries. But she couldn't stop replaying the brush of hands, the quick smiles, the weight of a gaze that lingered, far too long to be accidental. As the night deepened, sleep came reluctantly. Emma dreamt of the lake of silver reflections, of a hand brushing hers again and again, each touch electric, unspoken. She woke early, the morning sun spilling into her room, feeling a mix of anticipation and fear. The retreat was still a day, full of activities, team games, and planned exercises. But now Emma carried an extra weight, the possibility that Daniel felt it too. She got dressed in casual clothes, choosing soft tones that made her feel comfortable, yet presentable. She stepped outside and saw Daniel already at the dock, leaning lightly against the railing, the morning sun glinting off the water behind him. The sight made her heart skip. He held 2 mugs of coffee, the steam curling up into the crisp air, a simple gesture that made her pulse faster. When their fingers brushed, handing off the mugs, there was no accidental pull-away this time. Their hands lingered slightly, a quiet acknowledgement of the unspoken bond forming between them. "Morning," he said softly, his eyes searching hers. "Morning," she replied, her voice lighter than she felt. A tension in the air was palpable, filled with a mix of curiosity, desire, and caution. They walked along the lake, each step sinking naturally, as though the world had shrunk to just the two of them. Words were scarce but unnecessary. Every glance, every brush of shoulders, every shared smile conveyed more than speech ever could. Daniel finally broke the silence, his voice almost a whisper. "Do you ever feel like people see you, really see you, but only in moments like this?" Emma felt her throat tighten. That question reflected exactly what she had been feeling, the awareness, the recognition, the attention that felt intimate yet safe. "Yeah," she admitted quietly. "More than I'd like to admit." They stopped at a small wooden dock, the lake stretching endlessly ahead. Daniel faced her fully now, eyes earnest. "I don't want to cross any lines," he said, careful. "But I feel something between us, something we can't ignore." Emma's heart surged. She wanted to tell him the same, to admit the quiet longing that had been growing in her chest since the moment she first noticed him in the office. But caution tempered her words. "I know," she whispered, letting the words hang in the air. Like a fragile promise, for a long moment, neither spoke. They simply stood there, aware of every sound, the gentle lapping of water against the dock, the distant laughter of coworkers, the soft rustle of pine needles in the breeze. It was intimate, charged, a quiet storm of emotion neither could yet name. Daniel brushed a loose strand of hair from Emma's face, the gesture tender, deliberate, and entirely filled with unspoken meaning. Just then, the sounds of the retreat. Return laughing voices, calls from team members, the reminders of reality. But instead of breaking the spell, it emphasized it. Amid the chaos of the retreat, their quiet connection felt like a secret world. A shared understanding that existed only in stolen moments and gentle touches. Daniel smiled, small but genuine, and said, "Let's see where this goes." Emma returned the smile, tentative yet hopeful. "Yes, let's." And with that, they turned back toward the cabin, hand brushing hand again, as if acknowledging a silent agreement. The retreat continued around them, full of planned activities, laughter, casual conversations. But Emma and Daniel carried something else's awareness of the unspoken. A spark that promised more than casual friendship, a connection deeper than either had anticipated. That first night and morning had shifted everything. What began as ordinary team retreat activities had evolved into something delicate, beautiful, and quietly intense. Their hearts were both hesitant and hopeful, uncertain of the future, but undeniable in the present. And though the day ahead would be full of challenges, games, and interactions with others, The bond forming between Emma and Daniel promised a story just beginning, written in stolen glances, shared silences, and the gentle warmth of human connection. By the time the morning fully unfolded, Emma realized she was no longer just attending a retreat. She was part of something unpredictable, something tender, something that neither rules nor schedules could dictate. The spark had been struck, and the flame, however small, had begun to burn. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint smell of pine and wet earth. Emma stepped outside the cabin, the sun just rising over the lake, painting the water with soft gold and silver reflections. Her heart raced as she spotted Daniel at the dock, already there, holding 2 steaming mugs of coffee. The quiet early hours felt private, like the world had paused just for them. Daniel handed her a mug, their fingers brushing lightly. This time, neither pulled away. The small contact sent a warmth up her arm, one that lingered in her chest. "Morning," he said, eyes searching hers. There was a nervous smile, not the easy grin he wore with the team, but something softer, more vulnerable. "Morning," she replied, keeping her voice calm, though her heart refused to stay quiet. They began walking along the lakeside path, the sun climbing slowly, the lake reflecting every movement. Each step was deliberate, almost ceremonial, yet neither felt the need for words at first. The silence was comfortable, carrying the weight of everything neither had admitted aloud. Emma tried to focus on the scene, the water rippling in the breeze, the birds gliding across the lake, the soft crunch of their shoes on gravel, but her attention kept drifting to him. Daniel's presence was magnetic. Every movement he made, every glance he stole, seemed to reach deeper than simple friendship could allow. There was tension, yes, but it was gentle, electric, and tender all at once. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice low, thoughtful. "You ever feel like some people see you, but not really? And then, sometimes, someone just sees everything, even the parts you hide." His words were soft, almost a whisper, but they landed in Emma's chest like a stone tossed in two. Still water? She felt the echo of her own thoughts in them. "I know," she said quietly, her voice barely above the sound of wind through the pines. "I've felt that before, but not often." He slowed his pace, letting the words settle. Between them, Daniel glanced at her, and for a moment the world narrowed down to just the two of them. There was something vulnerable in his eyes, an honesty that surprised her. It made her heart ache, not from sadness, but from the sheer intensity of feeling. Him there, so near, so open. They reached the small wooden dock stretching into the lake like a bridge into another world. Daniel stopped, turning to face her fully. "I don't want to overstep," he said carefully, "but I can't ignore this. I can't ignore what's between us." Emma's chest tightened. She had felt it to the pull, the tension, the spark that had been growing quietly since Friday. "I know," she whispered, letting her heart speak even when words could not. A silence followed, but it wasn't awkward. It was heavy, charged, full of meaning. The water reflected the sky, calm yet restless, and the faint morning breeze carried the sound of leaves rustling and distant bird calls. Everything was ordinary, yet the moment felt extraordinary. Every brush of his hand against hers, every small shift in stance, carried an unspoken message that neither dared say aloud. Daniel took a step closer, but still respectful, still cautious. He brushed a strand of hair from Emma's face, fingers lingering against her cheek. It was not a gesture of ownership, nor a bold move. It was simply an acknowledgement of connection, a tender recognition that they were no longer just co-workers, no longer simply friends. Emma's breath caught. She wanted to speak, to confess everything, the longing she'd felt. The stolen glances, the small dreams that had formed in her chest, but fear and caution held her back. There was a fragility to this moment, a sense that if either of them moved too fast, it could break. Yet standing here, she realized that the moment had already changed her. Something between them had shifted irreversibly. Daniel's voice cut gently through the silence. Whatever happens, let's take it slow. Let's see where this goes. No rush, no pressure. Just us, for now. Emma nodded, a small, trembling smile spreading across her face. Yes, let's, she replied. The sound of laughter from the cabin reminded them that the rest of the team was awake, moving about, unaware of the private world the two of them had created. It was a sudden intrusion, yet it also made the moment more precious. Their connection existed in stolen moments, in the quiet pauses between normal life, in the gentle touches and lingering glances that said more than words ever could. They walked back toward the cabin, their hands brushing lightly, occasionally intertwining without thought, without pressure. Emma's chest felt tight, full of anticipation and uncertainty. Daniel's hand, warm and steady, offered comfort, reassurance, and a subtle promise that whatever this was, it was mutual. Over breakfast, ate vaked glances, smiles, and small touches, private, yet undeniable. Every conversation, even casual team chatter, felt layered now with a quiet tension. Each laugh, each shared look, carried the weight of what had passed by the lake, what had begun in the small, delicate spaces where words weren't necessary. The day moved quickly with retreat activities, team challenges, icebreaker games, and collaborative exercises. Emma felt herself drifting through the tasks with partial focus, always aware of Daniel nearby. His presence was like a magnetic force, pulling her attention even when she tried to focus elsewhere. Each interaction was a dance, subtle but intimate, a silent conversation no one else could see, during a team exercise involving trust and balance. Daniel was paired with Emma, as they leaned on each other, guided each other through small obstacles, their hands brushed repeatedly. Every touch, light and fleeting, made her heart flutter. Each accidental handhold, each gentle nudge was layered with meaning, a conversation in its own language. She caught herself watching his movements, memorizing the tilt of his head, the warmth in his smile, the quiet steadiness in his demeanor. By mid-afternoon, the team gathered near the lake for a canoe activity. Emma and Daniel ended up sharing a canoe, the small space forcing closeness. They paddled side by side, laughter spilling easily as they tried to keep the boat steady. Yet underneath the laughter, a quiet awareness lingered, the touch of shoulders, the brush of hands on the paddles, the occasional glance that lingered just a beat too long. The connection that had begun in the early morning hours had deepened, growing stronger, more palpable. After the canoeing, as the sun began its slow descent, the team returned to the cabin, tired and ready for dinner. Emma lingered near the back, watching Daniel interact with others. She felt a strange mixture of longing and satisfaction. They had shared something private, a world only they could access, yet the public setting reminded her that boundaries existed. Still, the spark was undeniable, and it pulsed quietly, a soft reminder that this retreat had changed her and Daniel forever. As evening fell, the team gathered around another bonfire. Quieter this time, more reflective. Emma and Daniel found a spot slightly away from the group, a small clearing where the moonlight spilled between the trees. Conversation was casual, playful, but underneath every glance, every accidental touch carried meaning. Their hands brushed, their knees touched under the log they sat on, and for a moment, the world around them faded. Emma realized something profound. This wasn't just attraction. It was recognition, understanding, a connection that didn't need words to exist. Daniel understood her in ways no one else did. Faye? He saw the side of her she kept hidden, the part of her that longed for more than routine, for connection, for someone who could match her pace in thought and feeling. And she understood him. She saw the subtle vulnerability in his confident exterior, the tenderness beneath his easy charm, the longing he didn't speak aloud but showed in small, deliberate gestures. When the fire began to die down and the team retreated to the cabin, Daniel lingered. He looked at her with a quiet intensity, a question in his eyes, a promise hidden in the slight curve of his lips. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we'll have the morning again, just us." Emma felt a rush of warmth, a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "I'll be there," she said, smiling. The words were simple, but they carried everything: anticipation, trust, hope, as they walked back. Hands brushing once more, Emma felt her heart light, yet full of tension, full of possibility. The retreat had begun as a casual exercise in team bonding. But for Emma and Daniel, it had become something entirely different. Something tender, delicate, yet impossible to ignore. They returned to the cabin, each carrying the knowledge that the unspoken bond between them had shifted from tentative curiosity to a quiet certainty. What had started with accidental touches and stolen glances had grown into a connection that neither could deny. The spark was there, steady now, simmering beneath their shared smiles, their gentle touches, and the private understanding that their hearts had found a rhythm together. And as the night wrapped the cabin in darkness, Emma lay in bed thinking of Daniel's smile, his careful words, the brush of his hand against hers, and the look in his eyes that told her everything she longed to hear. She realized that the retreat was no longer about the team, the games, or even the lake. It was about them, about what had begun in stolen moments and quiet gestures, about the story they would write together, moment by moment, touch by touch. Heart by heart. Soft cliffhanger ending. Emma knew, without needing words, that this was only the beginning. The bond they had discovered would grow, deepen, and challenge them. But it was real, undeniable, and beautiful. And as sleep finally came, she held on to the warmth of that connection.